Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Rose, hands up. Yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on in. It's another edition of the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker. Lots to get through today on a Monday, and it's draft day. Well, draft lottery day. How do you like your odds? If you're the Utah Jazz fan, today's the day.
Be honest, I'm not very optimistic. Let's just put it that way.
Was the tank worth it? We'll find out in about a little over an hour. Now, the broadcast begins at 5, but we probably won't really know the fate of the Utah Jazz for a little while longer. Probably be closer to 5:30.
Yeah, something like that. I forget how long the lottery show thing is, but I'm imagining it takes up about a half-hour time slot. Because from what I remember, they get through pretty quickly. They don't sit there and get super dramatic about each one taking like 5 minutes between. They just go like, all right, here's this team, and here's this team, and here's this team, and here's this team, and let's go to commercial break. That's about the worst you get of it.
Yeah. So we unfortunately we get off the air right at 5, but we are making it so that we can still be on somehow.
93015 is already texting saying we should be having a 2-hour show.
Yeah. Well, what we're going to do is we're experimenting here with some live streaming. And so we will start that at 5 on my X account, x.com.
Good old X Twitter.
Yes. Twitter. I am at eFrandsen, EFRANDSEN.
Yeah. If you're following either of us, I'll probably retweet it. Now, obviously, you can find that. So for those of you who want to keep listening, you can switch over there. We'll be live. There'll be video. You'll see us in the studio hanging out. So we'll be watching the draft lottery here in the studio. We can't show it for obvious reasons, but you'll be able to see our reaction as we're watching it in front of us.
Yes. So we'll have that on, and we'll react to that. So that's coming up a little bit later on this afternoon. So the Utah Jazz, they're sending Ashley Smith. She will be Utah's representative tonight.
Did we figure out where the lottery is actually happening?
It's in Chicago.
Oh, yeah, because they're doing the combine there. So
yeah, I did see that. It is taking place in Chicago tonight, and it's expected to begin at 5, and then I believe everything will be done by 5:30.
Yeah, and speaking of the combine, had a quick article on Cache Valley Daily went on over the weekend just about Mountain West basketball prospects. Obviously none from Utah State, although I did mention Ian Martinez in there as players to watch out for, not to get drafted, but there's a section where it's like guys who aren't going to get drafted, but they're going to be looking to turn pro, may look toward the NBA, particularly the G League. Think Darius Brown, Taylor Funk. There's a few guys in the Mountain West, but there are 3 players from the Mountain West, I think 2 others who used to be in the Mountain West but transferred somewhere else, that are participating in the NBA Combine this week.
Oh, very cool. So, yeah, definitely worth keeping an eye on and seeing how things go for those players. But before we get into anything else, there was really something kind of special that happened earlier today. This is the first time, at least for me, that I've had the opportunity to do something like this, and I'm not aware of other coaches doing this in the past. But Utah State men's basketball coach Jerrod Calhoun reached out and extended an invitation to us and to others in the local media to come have lunch and with his coaching staff and just talk about how things are going currently in the offseason. And so we sat down, broke bread, and just chatted for a little while. And then he's like, now, did you guys want to you go on record for anything? We're like,
Yeah.
well, yeah. And then all of a sudden, all the devices come out.
I reach into my little suitcase, pull out the recorder, and get things rolling. So yeah, it was fantastic. If USU Athletics to reach out and have that, because like normally you can have them where it's like just press conferences, just formal interviews, things like that. But chance to just go out there and have lunch, sit down, chat with the coach for a minute. Really helps build the relationship between the media and coach, and I think just as importantly, perhaps more importantly, helps get Jerrod Calhoun, helps him connect with the fans through us, because that ends up being our role, is him speaking to us. We convey that out to the fans, and they're able to learn as much about the team as possible. And at a time like this where things kind of start going dark for the team as they they start their off-season work and whatnot, this is a time where maybe you just stop hearing from the coach because they're out of sight, out of mind. This is a chance for Jerrod Calhoun to keep in connection with his fan base and with the media.
Yeah, and so he was pretty open book. There are things that the roster is set. The schedule is almost set. That was a big surprise.
Yeah, that was something he mentioned. It's like they're gonna
already.
Yeah, they're getting pretty done with that. There'll be a couple of comments regarding the schedule that we can get to. But yeah, just a lot to go over.
Yeah, so let's get to it. And he kind of highlighted on the roster building for this year, the roster building that's been taking place this offseason. But kind of the new guys coming in, but also just how important it's been to keep this group of returning players as well for his 2025-26 basketball roster.
Yeah, I'm really grateful that we got 5 returning players. I think there's a lot of coaches out there that don't have that luxury, right? So I'm really excited. I think they're the most important guys in the program because they've been here. They've helped establish what we do day in and day out. So yeah, we got, kind of a weird group. We've got 5 returning guys, 5 freshmen, 5 transfers. I don't know if that'll ever happen again, but yeah, 15 scholarships. Obviously there's going to be a lot more competition, playing time. Well, it'll all work itself out, but I think in the summer it's going to be great. Kids won't have to have as many reps. I think you got to be careful as a head coach of overdoing it, but we'll be able to do quite a bit with 15 guys.
Yeah, interesting, just the versatility. And we've talked about this quite a bit, but this roster this year gives this coaching staff quite a bit of versatility. And it was something that we heard it's in post-season or post-game press conferences on a number of occasions at the end of the regular season, in the conference tournament, and seemed to be something that we heard quite a bit from Coach Calhoun before the portal even opened. Before any of that, is that he now had gone through a season in the Mountain West and knew what he really needed to focus on in recruiting. And what we heard about a lot, Jason, was Utah State needed a big physical guy in the center. Now, that didn't quite materialize, but he did kind of talk about that.
Yeah, he did. And I think everyone was expecting, as I kind of worded the question to Jerrod Calhoun, everyone kind of expected a shiny new 7-foot center. But they didn't end up getting that. But I think he was still happy with the group of bigs that he's brought in now.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of ups and downs with that. Really, really excited to get Zach. I think Zach has real size. He's every bit of 6'10". He's really, really big. And then he's also skilled. Gary's not as tall, but Gary's very versatile, and Gary can do a lot of different things. So I think those two guys will give us a really good 1-2 punch. And then, Carson Templin is a guy that's got a ton of game experience. We started him in the biggest game of the year against UCLA. So I always tell the guys, you don't have to be the biggest, right? I think so many fans, it's funny, my mom's husband, he was a big donor of ours at Fairmont State many, many years ago, and that's all he talked about was big guys, big guys, big guys. Big guys are come in different sizes. Some guys play bigger. I think Carson Templin does that. So to get a true 7-footer that can shoot threes, block shots, run, jump, isolate. I'd have to give up my whole salary for that. So there's got to be some give and take. But I think those 3 kids collectively, along with David, we'll be much, more athletic, versatile, I think, on the front line than last year.
So are you targeting three-point shooting bigs, as a means to have some more versatile lineups?
Yeah, I think, the way we want to play with space, you got Colby, you got MJ, you got Mason, you got Drake, you got guys that can really drive the ball. The more space you allow those guys to have with a non-plotting big, I think you're more versatile. If you look at some of the great teams out there, the fives can shoot. I mean, you watch in every NBA game, Al Horford and these different guys, they're the difference makers. And I think Zach could be that.
And I think the potential to have these like 5-out lineups in these, not just 5-up, like inside outside, because I say 5-out, okay, you have 5 shooters, but you have slashers, Mason Falsleb, and I think guys like MJ Collins and Drake Allen can do a little bit of that too. The potential for those lineups is really interesting. I went over this a little bit in my Zach Keller player breakdown video where I show a sequence of plays from Air Force where Utah State is manipulating the defense by the fact they were able to have a 5-out lineup because they had Isaac Johnson on the floor in that game. And the things that they can create, either wide open shots from three. Those are the 2 cases I showcased in that one, is they're able to generate wide open 3-point shots. But it goes the other way where when you pull guys out of the paint, well, there's nobody in the paint and you can attack the paint. So I think the versatility they add with their bigs is, well, really big, to say it that way. We'll see if some of these guys can hit their goals in 3-point shooting. There's a couple of questions on just how viable they be. Will Gary Clark, he's like 30% last year. Zach Keller hasn't had a season where he's been a volume 3-point shooter, but there's hints that all of them should be able to. And heck, if Carson Templin, if he continues to improve,
right? He
went from a non-shooter to you kind of let him take a wide open one. And if he makes a similar jump, he'll be a viable one this next year.
Well, and that low post presence, while it may not be achieved with 6'11", 240-pound guy, beast in the low post. Gary Clark fills a lot of those things that Utah State was kind of missing last year, and just how Utah State can move guys around, how they can execute in the low post, how they can rebound in the low post. He is excellent in those categories, and it's not to say that Carson Templin can do some of that, and some of these other guys can't do that. It's just that was really a specialty for Clark, and that is something that Utah State was kind of missing, and that's something that he's going to be able to fulfill. While they don't have perhaps the meat in the middle to move people around a little bit, they still have guys who are active and who are skilled at what they can do based on, even though they may not be limited in total height, they still, I think, got some upgrades in what they can do in skill.
Yeah, they're active and athletic, and I think the biggest thing that you look at their bigs and wonder, can they handle is bulk. Because length is nice to have, but if you have enough bulk inside, then you can make it work. Like, are you going to be an elite rim protecting team if you lack length? Not really. It would take a pretty special group of bigs, undersized bigs, to be elite rim protectors. But your biggest problems in the post tend to be when you just can't handle a guy physically. Like, how many times couldn't handle Great Osobor? He's 6'8". No, he did have like a 7'2", 7'3" wingspan, but he was an undersized center, so to speak, and teams couldn't handle him at all. Mm-hmm. I don't think Garrett Clark's going to he's not going to be a Great Osobor, but when you look at the defense, like 6'8", 6'9" guys, so long as they have the bulk to deal with opposing centers, then the Aggies can be fine on defense. Now, some of these guys need to bulk up. Gary Clark's not super big. Yeah, Carson Templin, I think if he bulks up, he'll have enough size. David Oweezy, I don't think I have an official weight, but when I watch his film, he's a little skinny. I don't know if he's going to stand up to too many people very well as a freshman. But of all the issues you can have as far as your physical body, the one you can fix is your playing weight, your muscle composition, all that. You can get bigger. You can't get taller. You can't get longer. You can't get more athletic, but you can get bigger. And so of all the issues they can potentially have, they've chosen a weakness that they can actively address as far as a weakness in their players' physical attributes. Everywhere else, they've looked for, something that, you can't find an athletic big like Oweezy. You can't find an athletic big like Templin, Gary Clark. You can't find shooting very well from guys like Zach Keller. But
Yeah, Utah State has and they also the other key component here too is while they may not have that dominant 6'11", 7-foot guy in the low post, they have size and length at so many other positions, as we've talked about before. A guy in the low post can only do so much if he has the ball. And if you can deny entry, if you can frustrate the whole process to get him the ball to go to work in the low post, you're doing a lot of the winning right there on defense.
Yeah.
But with this overall roster, getting it together, it was interesting hearing Coach talk about the price of getting this roster together and what they've been able to achieve despite that, and how they're trying to flip the script a little bit and see if that also kind of results in even further gains down the road.
I would say the money this year, when you have 2 pots of money, it's a heck of an advantage, right? We only have 1 pot, and that's whatever our donors give us. So we're not sharing any revenue from the school, right? The school is not giving us any revenue to pay our team or any of the athletic teams. So when you have 2 pots of money, obviously that's a big deal to a lot of these schools. So I think the biggest shocker to me was the price on the players, right? From 1 through 5, every position, everything has went up. I think last year, if you looked at it in the Mountain West, you could say you could get a good player, a starter, for anywhere from 125 to maybe 300. Right now, I would say the prices went from probably 225 to 250, maybe to well over $1 million. I think the prices for players and all of that has been just a shocker to me. I don't think any of us were anticipating that. The second biggest shocker has been the way the community has stepped up. It's been incredible. Guys like Kevin White, guys like Ken Alder, guys like Jim Lobb, all our different donors. We're over 9 guys that have given over $100,000. We couldn't say that a year ago. Last year we were the lowest budgeted team in America to get an at-large bid, right? So if you look at 36 teams that made it, we spent $800,000 on our team, and it was the lowest budgeted team of anybody in the country, right? That's a heck of a thing for our players, but that's not something we want to hang our hat on, right? We want to continue to raise money and get to the top 4. I think we'll be in the top 4 this year in dollars spent on our roster.
Yeah, it's kind of parroting the theme we were trying to tell Ryan Smith to adopt: small but mighty.
Yeah, basically.
May not have all the money, but they've overachieved. Now, that's has to kind of always sort of be the Utah State way. They're never going to be on the same budget level as a lot of other schools out there, not even the same in the state of Utah. So they're always going to have to punch above their weight. But it is something that Coach Calhoun and his staff are trying to do a better job with, is trying to get a little bit more in their roster to be more competitive. But that was really interesting to him talking about how they were as an at-large team, they had the lowest valued roster, so to speak. But to still get to that point, really speaks volumes to the culture here and what Coach Calhoun and his staff are doing with the players they have.
Yeah, it's something we've been saying for at least well over a year. At least I've been saying. You've probably been saying it for a lot longer than me. Just Utah State punching above its weight class as far as just the raw dollar amounts. They're getting more for what they're buying. But ultimately, you can only play the money ball game so long. I mean, the Oakland A's were playing money ball, but they never won a title. They were good, but they weren't at the top. And Utah State, are they kind of like that? Of course, they're winning conference titles. That's something they've been successful at. But can they get deeper in the tournament? You saw some of the numbers that were getting thrown around about which teams were making it deep in the tournament. They all had the deepest pockets. There were basically no Cinderellas, at least mid-major Cinderellas, because all these big teams have giant budgets. And Utah State's never going to match that, but they got to at least get closer. If the gap isn't as massive, then you're just helping yourself even more, and you're creating some of your own luck in terms of the kind of transfers you're able to bring in, the kind of recruits you're able to bring in, and the guys you're able to keep them from getting poached. Keeping a guy like Mason, if you don't have an NIL budget, Mason's gone.
Yeah,
and the fact they were able to keep him, along with the fact that he was certainly loyal to Utah State to a degree, that Utah State's not giving him the highest amount he could get anywhere, but that combination of keeping guys here, developing them here, getting them to love Cache Valley, and then being able to take care of them financially. Those are the things that are going to help you, consistently have a talented roster.
But with that, trying to get more money infused into the men's basketball roster, it takes effort to get there. The Blue A Collective has made a lot of leaps and bounds, and they've grown quite a bit. But there's still some room to grow. As he believes that Utah State will be a top 4 roster in the Mountain West this next year.
Yeah. So this next clip we'll play, I asked Jerrod Calhoun what this offseason has been like. I started asking the question. I don't include my question here, but because that's why I want to preface this. Like, what was the offseason like? Expecting to get some kind of answer. Oh, it's been a little easier, settled in, recruiting. That was kind of the way I viewed it. And I don't think I include this part of the audio, but he said this has been the worst offseason.
Yes, it took a very unexpected turn for all of us in the room.
I didn't know how to react. But here's why Calhoun felt like it's been kind of a rough offseason for him.
This has probably been one of the worst for me personally, to be honest with you. Probably the worst, just from the simple standpoint of the fundraising, right? So typically in May, I was talking to Matt Painter from Purdue about this the other day. He was at a Chicago Cubs game, getting ready to watch the Cubs game, and he was nice enough to take my call. We talked for about 10 minutes. And a lot of at that level, at the Power 4, they got to do some big fundraising events. Here it's literally every day, 5 days a week, right? So in May, really April, end of April or middle of April, and then all of May, all I've been doing is fundraising, whether it's Salt Lake, Cache Valley, you name it. We're trying to raise dollars for our NIL because we don't have revenue sharing money. So it's been very, very stressful. It's been a lot of hours, a lot of time, and it takes away from your basketball. So I now understand why teams are hiring general managers. It makes a lot of sense to hire a guy that wakes up thinking about money, right? And how can I get money for the football team, the basketball team, the women's volleyball team, the women's basketball team, and so on. I totally get it now. And I don't think like a year ago, I fully got it. So every day you're learning, every year is getting different. It's a changing sport. It's big business. There's no doubt about it. This is all a business, So when people say, "Hey, why can't you get a 7-footer?" Money, right? When everybody complains and says things, it's usually about one thing in college athletics. Unfortunately, Jason, it's about money. I think here what we did last year with the 6th most money in the league is pretty amazing, and I think what we've been able to do from a fundraising standpoint has been pretty amazing. But we're just still not there yet, right? We need a couple more sharks to help out Jim Lott.
Yeah, we just need a.
He's pounding the table.
Yeah, he is. He's getting really into it. I don't mean to make too much fun of him, but it's just the things you pick up on when you have the recorder sitting on the table.
Yeah, you were right next to him. So
I know you can hear me pretty well when I ask questions. Some of the other guys, and we'll try and publish the full press conference later. But yeah, just some things to get picked up on.
Yeah, man. I would have thought rough off season because questions about should he stay in Logan? Is he going to go back to a place where he coached for a long time? It's really important to the start of his basketball coaching career. But players in the portal leaving, are they staying? Trying to recruit players with NIL? No, it's fundraising. Like I feel bad for the guy. I feel bad for any head coach right now. Because you're always recruiting. There's never an off season. There used to be times where you knew you could focus on recruiting and then you'd be done. But now you're always recruiting. Because even if guys are technically available or not, you're recruiting your own guys to stay. So you're always recruiting and you're always fundraising. And this guy spent 6 weeks trying to shake the trees so he could improve his roster. That's bonkers.
Yeah, shake every tree, go back and do it again. Like, he basically became a politician because, politicians spend about 80% of their time fundraising, and he probably felt like that. Maybe when he retires from coaching basketball, he'll have enough experience to run for office with all the fundraising experience he'll end up with. But yeah, it's
Cache Valley Bank, and we understand that concerns about fraud can weigh heavily on you. Your peace of mind is important to us. That's why we're committed to looking out for you and your family. Our team keeps a vigilant eye on your account, and if you ever have concerns or need support, we're just a call or visit away. Whether you need advice or just someone to talk to, our friendly staff is ready to help. We're more than just a bank. We're your neighbors, and we care about your security. Visit your local branch today. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
Daryl's Appliance is celebrating you this Saturday. That's right. It's Customer Appreciation Day. Come enjoy Daryl's homemade root beer and Betty's famous hot dogs and get an exclusive store credit of $55 with every $555 spent. There will be food, giveaways, and savings on Maytag, Cafe G, and more. Don't miss Customer Appreciation Day this Saturday at Daryl's Appliance located west on Airport Road. Hurry in today and experience the Daryl's difference.
Are you looking for compassionate and reliable care for yourself or a loved one? Look no further than Aegis Home Health and Hospice. I'm Tom Sherlock, a licensed social worker, part of the dedicated team of professionals committed to meeting the needs of our community. Voted best in Northern Utah 2 years in a row, we pride ourselves on delivering exceptional service that you can depend on. We're here to ensure comfort and dignity every step of the way. When it comes to your health, choose the agency that Northern Utah trusts the most. Choose Aegis. Visit myaegis.com or call today 435-723-9000.
Do you have a fireplace or stove that isn't working right? Why wait until next winter to get it fixed? Get ahead of the game and get your fireplace or stove serviced now by Advanced Fireplace and Stove. They service everything from Quadra-Fire pellet stoves to heat and glow fireplaces. Get a 20% discount on your next service and labor when you mention this ad. Call 752-7272 or go to advancedfireplaceandstove.com. Advanced Fireplace and Stove, where comfort is their business.
Spring. It's time to get those old rusted vehicles moved. Call DD Auto and Salvage and get paid for moving that old rusted out junk vehicle. DD Auto and Salvage makes it easy and fast, paying you the most money possible. Pickup is available. DD Auto and Salvage in Logan wants to pay you today. Call 787-1204. That's 787-1204 today. See store for details.
Now here's a concept. You earmark 1/3 of your profits to go back into the community, to local charities. Dex Imaging does that. My name is Anthony Wagoner, and I'd like to share with you what I know about Dex, the company that acquired Valley Office Systems. Dex Imaging is committed to continuing quality customer service while raising the bar to become a strong community partner. Join us in creating the brightest image for tomorrow. Contact us at deximaging.com.
The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Young Power Sports of Logan, they've got a brand new service center. It can handle any make, any model, 100% of the time. Trained technicians. Go check them out at Young Power Sports. Or even check it out online, youngpowersportslogan.com.
Speaking of the Young Power Sports text line, thanks for the couple heads up on the signal cutout. We had something weird go on with our mics, although it sounds like it's working now. Maybe do a quick roll call. We're monitoring the situation. Just kind of weird pop up there. So thanks a couple texters who notified us of that. Although 9315 had another text sent in earlier saying Jerrod Calhoun is one of the best coaches Utah State has ever had. I hope he never leaves.
Yeah, and then the system is broken when a basketball coach spends more time with raising money than actual basketball stuff.
Yeah, that's it does feel broken. I wonder if revenue sharing will address that a little bit, where I don't know. It depends if Utah State ends up directly sharing revenue, because the system they're going with right now, and Calhoun talked about, having the two pots of money. One of them is revenue sharing. One of them is the NIL. They're only going with NIL. They're not revenue sharing right now, and are probably not going to at least for this first year. They'll probably have to look into that down the line. That's where this is all going. But yeah, for now, he's just having to, scrape whatever money he can out of the fan base so that he can put together the competitive team that the fan base expects of him.
Yeah, great conversation earlier today with Coach Calhoun. We were invited up to his offices, not just us, or Herald Journal was there. We had some other representation that was there. So it was fun that we could all get together and have a lunch and ask questions. But one of those was, looking at the roster, replacing certain players. We already talked about trying to find a big man, something he talked about at the end of the season, and how they kind of roster building around that. But what about like Ian Martinez, dynamic scoring guard for Utah State? How they replace him?
I thought you guys did a tremendous job. About 3 episodes ago, you guys talked about this, and I don't know if it was you or Jason that mentioned this, but we have a lot of different guys that can do it. Whether that's Gary Clark, a guy that can score, Colby, MJ, obviously Mason, Carson Templin, Drake Allen. We'll probably be more of a committee type team this year, which I think we need to. I think the best way to make sure that we're in a position to go to the NCAA tournament is to improve our defense and become the best defensive team in the league. I think we have real versatility. I thought you guys made great points with MJ and Colby that day. We'll be very versatile defensively, right? What I mean by that, we can switch, we can play man-to-man, we can play our matchup. We'll be able to do quite a bit, but I don't know if you'll be able to replace Ian Martinez nowadays with the way things cost, right? If Ian Martinez went in the portal, this year, he would probably be $1.5 to $2 million, right? You just can't. You don't have the money to do that. So I think it's going to get harder and harder when we lose these great players like that. We got to rely on the development of our freshmen and then plug in some of these transfers. And I think that's why it's so critical to continue to recruit high school kids, because you're trying to get the next Ian Martinez or the Mason Falslivs and keep them, hopefully for 4 years.
Well, and one of the questions, too, as a follow-up to that was, could Mason really slide into that role and be more of that scorer to lead the team and fill the role that Ian was playing as one of the main offensive contributors? You
don't want to put too much pressure on a guy, but the expectation is for him and, Magoon Guath. And I would say those two guys should be up for preseason player of the year in the conference. I think Magoon is just so naturally gifted. He impacts the game. I think Mason impacts the game in a lot of ways. Where Mason really impacts us is his leadership as well, his day-to-day habits. But certainly he's got to, continue to shoot the ball. I thought he shot the ball at a really high clip. Develop a left hand, right? Develop a mid-range game. And I thought he was great, the latter part of the season on his free throws. So, yeah, I think the beautiful thing about him is he's going to put in the effort. We got to get these guys. One thing we've talked about these guys is putting in more time on their own. I think that's an area where we lacked. They got to understand every day counts. And he's a guy that if he can help lead that in a few weeks here when everybody reports back, yeah, he certainly can make that jump.
Yeah, and we kind of had a follow-up on that, just about player development, right? Players improving on their own, because they didn't really go out and find that other Ian Martinez, because that would have been a really expensive endeavor. So how do they lean in on developing their own guys to take that next step? And you heard him talk about Mason as things that he could do to maybe head in that direction. But there's a lot on their plates. There's a responsibility for the players themselves to improve and do things in their own offseason.
Yeah, and Mason obviously has a chance to take a giant step forward that we've seen from guys in the past. I brought up Sam Merrill and the jump he's made. I brought up Donovan Dent when I asked Jerrod Calhoun about Mason. So, there's a lot of players who can step up, and they weren't necessarily going to find an exact copy of Mason. Stars come in all shapes and sizes. The Aggies have gone from Sam Merrill to Justin Bean, Namish Keta, Stephen Ashworth, Ian Martin, they come in all shapes and sizes.
Right, true.
And so the Aggies are looking for their next. It could be Mason Falslive. You could see Gary Clark take a big step forward, but obviously they're going to aim to do it by committee unless somebody makes that jump. Like, say, Gary Clark decides he's going to be a 16-point-per-game guy. Well, then it's going to be Gary and Mason, just like it was Mason and Ian last year.
Yeah, and so here's Coach talking about working with players and things they need to do themselves.
So we develop an off-season plan for every single guy, right? And we're going to look at every number and break that down from a statistical standpoint, right? Like, we're already working on Drake Allen. How can we help him impact the game defensively, right? Like, defensive rebounding percentage as a guard needs to be high, right? And he was one of the lowest outside of Donovan Dent. Drake really struggled defensive rebounding the ball, right? He struggled getting through screens. He was really good at creating some turnovers. So just getting these guys to understand, hey, you got to play to your strengths, but this is the time where you got to work on your weaknesses, right? What you do really the next 126 days and we play, that's not that long away, right? So what you do right now will affect those numbers and affect the team and affect really thousands of people that come to the games. So
some of that's mechanically too.
Yeah.
Right? Like how the shot mechanics. And
yeah.
Position. So how do they? Do you give them recommendations?
Yeah. We'll show
this guy and he'll help you.
Yeah. We'll show.
Have contacts with you for this stuff, but here's the direction I want you to go.
Yeah. So we only get 4 hours of basketball a week, and then we get 4 hours in the weight room. So you have to be really strategic on. Okay, these days we're doing this days we're doing this. We'll teach them enough in the first 2 weeks that they'll be able to do stuff outside. They'll obviously play pickup quite a bit, which I would encourage you guys to come watch that as well. They'll play and condition on their own quite a bit. But, yeah, there are each guy, right, like Carson Templin, his release point, right, where he shoots the ball. Same thing with MJ Collins. We got to work on their release points. Tucker Anderson, I think we got to maybe put some crowd noise in the spectrum or do something every time he shoots, because on the road he shoots better than he does inside the spectrum. So for him to shoot an empty spectrum, I don't think is really going to help his shot. But no, there are a lot of strategical and tactical things we got to try to clean up.
Yeah, that's something. There's a lot of different things to work on. Obviously, you mentioned Drake Allen. Kind of some specifics there is kind of interesting. But yeah, everyone has their thing to work on. But one thing, and kind of speaking of Tucker Anderson, is guys working on improving their 3-point shooting. Of course, Tucker is a weird case where he's a good 3-point shooter, struggled a little bit. But when I asked about guys improving their 3-point shot, like Mason, drastic improvement. He's got guys coming in who need to improve their 3-point shooting. MJ Collins, Drake Allen, who's a returner, needs to improve his 3-point percentage. Zach Keller needs to make sure that he maintains the 3-point shooting skill he has to be a viable shooter this year. Got to have Carson Templin improve. So, asked him just about what realistic expectations are there for guys improving their percentage?
Yeah, specifically from the outside.
Yeah, from the outside. Yeah, 3-point shot.
I don't mean to sound cocky in this, and don't take it like this because I'm not really that type of guy, but every guy we've ever coached has shot better. There's not a guy that's going to come in here and not shoot better. So if a guy's shooting 31, 32, I bet you he'll venture to say we get him 4 percentage points higher, Jason. And you say, well, why is that? I think it's scheme. I think it's what we run. I think it's all confidence. I think at the end of the day, life is all about confidence. We really empower these guys. Most coaches, they've got, closer rein on offense. I think what makes good offense is total opposite. Let kids take and make shots in the off season that they can't. They'll make them during the season. We did that at Youngstown for years. We took guys that couldn't shoot, come into our program. We told them they could shoot. We didn't lie to them, and then we let them shoot. I think the same thing with Gary. I think Gary will shoot it better than his numbers. Carson Templin, he was shooting way better than he ever had before, probably since his senior year of high school. He never shot his freshman year. Then he shot this year. So we expect for him to make a jump. But it's also what type of shots are you taking? Are you taking good shots? Or are you taking great shots? Are you taking bad shots? That's a big part of the shot profile that we talk about. Step-in threes, not off-the-bounce threes, not rush threes, and that'll help your percentage as well too.
Really interesting stuff there about kind of the humble brag, just how he and his coaching staff have consistently improved players shooting from the perimeter. It's just something that they do. It's part of their bread and butter. And they have a proven track record of helping guys be better from the outside.
Yeah, and overall, you look at Utah State last year as a team. I think I noted this I forget which player breakdown I put this note in, but I think it was the Gary Clark one, where overall, you could point out Tucker Anderson. He struggled, but overall, they shot better. And I think that's something you can expect to see this year, where overall, I think the players will shoot better than they collectively did last year, whether they're with Calhoun or not. And it would be interesting. I may end up kind of sinking my teeth into the numbers of, if you look at players Calhoun has had for multiple seasons, how much do they improve? I may end up looking into that just because it sounds like an intriguing rabbit hole to go down.
the kind of summer project that
this is how I entertain myself.
Tickles your fancy.
Yeah.
Yes. Quickly, let's get back to a couple of texts before we hit another timeout. 9315. Now when I see Jerrod, I'm going to have to greet him as 9315. Seeing how he loves the Best Aggie Show, a.k.a. Full Court Press.
Yeah, we know he's a loyal listener.
We always have to mind our P's and Q's because we know he listens.
Yeah, I know if I start talking too much smack, he'll probably get mad at me. 5452 had a text saying, grateful Calhoun chose to stay here even with the fundraising frustration he shared.
Yeah,
that was, I don't know if he exactly knew what he was getting into with how much fundraising he'd have to do, but he's, certainly knows the job now and is still happy, regardless.
Yeah. And then 8968, I know I have to beat this to death, but I believe that there should be two classes of teams, pro teams, i.e. BYU, and then smaller teams be in a class of their own. They could have their own championship, maybe get some players that want an education. It's a weird concept.
Yeah, you have to wonder, can you eventually, and maybe that'll just be there'll be a new separation to a new Division I, a new Division II, where, you still have amateurism and people going to college to get an education. That is a concept that is alive and well, as much as I rail on that reality. It's just that at the highest levels, the power conferences essentially, that doesn't exist. And even to some degree at the mid-major level, where a lot of teams are sinking money into this, it's not really as much about amateurism.
Yeah.
There's a little bit more of it where guys are coming and getting their degrees and whatnot, but you're seeing this turn into professional sports and it being all about money, as Calhoun has talked about.
Quick timeout here in the Full Court Press. A lot more from Coach Calhoun and our conversation with him earlier today.
Rely now on a York Affinity Premium Comfort System to keep your home cool and comfortable. The new Affinity systems are smarter and more connected and more efficient than ever before. And you can cut your energy costs by as much as 50%. Call Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning, your local York dealer, to schedule a free system evaluation. Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning showroom is west of DI and online at advancedheating-ac.com.
We're not comfortable until you are. Advanced Heating and Air.
Ladies, do you have your men's ring yet? We know that he got you the perfect ring, so let's get him one that will show how much you care, such as a one-of-a-kind Damascus steel, his choice of camo, or an exquisite redwood inlay. And if you really want something out of this world, come check out our meteorite rings. For the largest selection of unique men's rings, make it special, make it Jerrod's at 930 North Main in Logan.
Jerrod's Fine Jewelry. Make it special, make it Jerrod's.
The chips and drinks are endless. The burrito is huge for only $7.95. It's got to be Cafe Sabor, Cache Valley's best Mexican restaurant and gold medal winner in the Best of Northern Utah contest. Experience Locals Day every Thursday with a huge burrito, endless chips and soda, only $7.95. Finding any lunch under $10 is nearly impossible. Every Thursday, drinks, chips, and a massive burrito. You pay just $7.95. The food, the fun at Cafe Sabor in the historic train station on 6th West and Center in Logan.
Ah, the t-shirt. It's the unofficial clothing of summer. We all have a favorite t-shirt. The Logo Shop has custom screen printed over 1 million t-shirts for teams, clubs, businesses, family reunions, fundraisers, marathons, bike races. One-of-a-kind designs with creative graphics, even funny phrases. Whether you need a couple dozen or a couple thousand, the team at the Logo Shop will help with your one-of-a-kind design, from concept to creation. Order your custom t-shirts from the Logo Shop.
The Logo Shop. The Logo Stop. The Logo Shop.
Les Olson IT structured cabling is second to none. Tired of old and inefficient cabling? Have an upgrade or remodel planned? Building a new network from the ground up? We offer the very best in low voltage cabling installation, including data, phone, fiber optic, and more. Ask us how to get your free consultation today.
Les Olson IT.
Hi, this is Ashley with LSS Insurance. Medicare can seem complicated, but it doesn't have to be. Let us help. We'll answer all your questions and get you specific information that fits your needs. Medicare is not one size fits all. We'll help you find the right coverage for you. Call 752-9493. You can ignore the TV and the junk mail. We'll get you the exact information you need. We will help you access the benefits that are important to you. Call LSS Insurance at 752-9493.
The Aggies, the Jazz, the high schools, the full court press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Coming up on Thursday, there's going to be a live broadcast here on The Fan from Industrial Tool and Supply. That's their annual Makita Spring Demo Days. So from 11 to 2, you can go check that out. Earlier today, we had the opportunity to visit with Coach Jerrod Calhoun. He and his coaching staff invited us to lunch. We went up to the Estes Center, had some sandwiches, and he was open book. Asked me whatever questions, and he'll try to answer best he can. And one of those was, and we've been talking a lot about roster building this time of the year. That makes sense. This is a big topic. But it seemed like Utah State found out a little bit more about who they are, where they need to be when they went to the NCAA tournament and faced a very athletic UCLA team.
Yeah, it's the athleticism that they end up facing is I think something that was a concern. We talked about them wanting to add length and athleticism. They wanted to add top end size, but it's super expensive, so they make do with what they can. But yeah, it was interesting hearing him talking about the importance of adding that length for obviously these big games.
I think as you didn't really know about the Mountain West, right? Obviously, I can study it, I can watch it, I can look at numbers. I'm an analytics guy. Now I know it, right? So now I know it inside and out. Some people gave us an A minus, whatever the case may be. But the bottom line is at Utah State, you're going to be judged on championships, right? Whether that's regular season or tournament. Let's call it like it is. Nobody has won 2 games in the NCAA tournament, right, ever in the history of this program. So that's a realistic goal that we should try to attain, Jason. I think the only way you attain that is by getting more athletic, right? When you go to play these Power 4 teams now, I mean, at every position, the size is it's remarkable how big and strong these guys are. I get into these heated debates with these old timers about today's NBA or 90s NBA, right? I love having those conversations because it's real. I mean, when you're watching the NBA, you're seeing 7-footers shoot threes. You're seeing 6'11" guards. I mean, it's crazy the length and skill. So with David, he's 6'9", extremely long, athletic. Adlin, the sky's the limit for him. Kingston Tosi obviously is coming in probably as the most heralded guy in that class. He can do it all. He can shoot threes. He's long. He's athletic. He's got a motor. So those 3 kids, you'll see, they look like Power 4 guys with their length. Now the size, so that's what we tried to address. And then we wanted to be more versatile, as we talked about the defense.
Yeah, the defensive versatility is very exciting.
Yeah.
Where the offense comes, that's something I think is still a bit of a work in progress. But I think there's certainly some exciting aspects of this team. It looks like they are going to be more athletic. They do have a lot more length at a lot of other positions.
And one thing that was interesting about this conversation was talking about strength of schedule. And we asked Calhoun about the schedule. He couldn't answer some specifics. We're talking about, the schedule being done soon, but there's some paperwork still being handled. You got to dot the I's, cross the T's, get the signatures. Couldn't say anything specific about teams they may play. But you talked about strength of schedule, like number of quad 1, quad 2 games they want to play and all that kind of stuff.
And a little Easter egg on maybe something that is going to come that it's first we've heard of it.
Yeah.
We have to get our work done in the non-league. The 11 games are so important to make sure it carries us, because if you have a down league and down year in league play, it's going to be one less bid, right? So we got to make sure all 11 games make sense. You do got to have 4 or 5 bye games, right? You got to have home games in the spectrum, but you got to get some good neutral site games. We're going to have a game at South Florida, which is on paper a quad 1. We got to add one more true road game. So we're going to have 2 true road games. We're going to try to add a game in Salt Lake, which would be a quad 2. We need it to be a quad 2. And the formula last year was we were 15-0 against quad 3 and quad 4. We had no bad losses. And that really helped us, right? And then, we played 4 quad 1 and quad 2s non-league. We got to do that again. I think the recipe is 4 quad 1, quad 2s, or 5. You got to play between 4 and 5 of those games. Whether it's neutral or away, you got to get them in, and then you got to win them. So if you have 11, you got to go 9-2, I would say, to feel pretty good about going into league play. And then you got to win 14 or 15. So I think the magic number is probably 24, 25 wins a year at this level. And that's hard to do.
So, yeah, the little nugget there is that there's going to be a game in Salt Lake, likely at the Delta Center. You didn't say specifically, but you said it would be a game in Salt Lake.
Yeah, it should be the Delta Center. I can't imagine anywhere else they're going to play.
And so hopefully that Wasatch Front alumni base shows up in good numbers.
Yeah, it did the last time they were.
It really helps those games where you're finding a neutral site and a good revenue opportunity for the team.
Yeah, it was a really good game when they played San Francisco there a couple years back. It ended up being a good game for them.
Yeah. Another quick timeout here in the Full Court Press. We'll be back with more from Coach Calhoun.
At Adams Wealth Advisors, they believe that successful wealth management is all about planning. And whether you've done a lot of planning or a little, Adams Wealth Advisors is here to help. If you're transitioning a business, searching for the most up-to-date tax strategies, need help managing investments, or need help with estate planning, Adams Wealth Advisors has your back. Visit adamswealthadvisors.com. That's adamswealthadvisors.com for more information or to schedule an appointment.
When grid failures and severe weather cause power outages, your business might take a hit, or at home, you could lose your refrigerated food storage. Generac Standby Power Solutions help ensure an uninterrupted power supply. Generac is the #1 brand of standby generators. Get yours today from Golden Spike Electric, your trusted source for safety and security. Golden Spike Electric, powering your peace of mind. Online at gsegenerators.com or call 257-3016. They also service other models.
S.E. Needham Jewelers is where Utah gets engaged. We offer a large selection of personalized service and extraordinary benefits with our integrity price guarantee. At Match Quality, you'll find our prices to be as low or lower than any store in the state. We consistently beat any 50 to 70% off sales, internet pricing, or so-called wholesale deals. In fact, we even price our diamonds at internet pricing. So you'll get S.E. Needham quality at internet prices. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 7, where Utah gets engaged. S.E. Needham Jewelers. Middle of the block, at the sign of the clock.
Following the local teams, it's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Get your machines moving, and they make sure they got everything that they need at Napa, all the oil brands, and get spark plugs and filters as well. Napa has got them to fit your car, your truck, your lawnmower, four-wheeler, your motorcycle, and even your side-by-side. Get it ready for when you need it online by purchasing it online and then going and picking it up in store. NapaOnline.com or stop by in any of the locally owned Preston and Providence Napa Auto Parts stores.
A couple things real quick. One, I know Jerrod Calhoun, we had a chance to ask him about his basketball camps. We don't have time to play all the clips we want to. We may have to push some of this to tomorrow, but got some basketball camps, and apparently it's going to be like the biggest one they've had in a while.
Yeah, the most high school teams reporting to participate north of 90. So a lot of high schoolers going to be on campus, and they're going to do camps for younger kids, for middle school aged. They'll do position type based stuff. So
yeah, and even though he hurt his meniscus, he's still going to be trying to help him out.
Yes, he'll still be active. Then on the text line, couple of texts real quick, 9315. Actually, we read that one, 2305. I have new respect for Coach Calhoun with all the duties that he's responsible for in order to put a quality program on at the college level. Thank goodness that we have him at Utah State. He's a good man. And then 8968, I don't know how far back the coach went, but 1968 or 1969, the Aggies beat Texas El Paso, then Santa Clara in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, there was the technically 1970 was when it happened. It was the 1969-70 season. They did beat a couple of teams to start with. So maybe he's referring to like kind of the modern era tournament with the 64, now 68 teams. I don't know. When you're dealing with entire history, sometimes you forget a couple of things.
Yeah. So I don't think he's technically wrong. I mean, maybe, yes, there was that different era, but in the modern era.
The sentiment stands, though, even if he's not. So factually correct. The sentiment is clearly there. He wants more from this program, and he's trying to get them further than we're just happy to be in the tournament or we're happy with one win. So obviously getting that one win was momentous, but like in the grand scheme of things, he made the round of 32. And so he wants this team to be expecting deep runs in the tournament. Even if they don't get it every year, you want to be expecting that and somewhat regularly achieving that the way Gonzaga has done, the way San Diego State kind of was doing it. They've faltered slightly the last couple of years, but even then, they're a team that can expect to go deep in the tournament.
Yeah. We'll have to punt on some
of this audio
comments.
We cut out about 5 of these clips because we only have so much time.
They're good. But what we're going to try to do, we'll try to circle back on this tomorrow on some of these, but we're working on enhancing the audio and to share that the full conversation that we had with Coach Calhoun. The members of the media were able to go up and visit with him today.
Yeah, so the full press conference should be available soon. I just have to work on the audio of all the questions we ask because they're super quiet. Calhoun's because obviously has to stick the microphone in front of him.
It's right next to him.
So, and we don't have a robust sound system where we can pass the mic around like they do in some press conferences. Kind of informal, just having lunch and then stick a recorder in front of him and start asking questions. But yeah, it was a fantastic opportunity. We'll look forward to continuing to connect with Coach and with the players through the offseason. Last year we had a chance to have basically all of the players on our show at some point or another through the offseason, and that's something that we're going to expect to have this season because we talked about it. Have a lot of the transfers on to introduce them, some of the incoming freshmen. So that's something, and we'll have more details on that later. But
yeah, and we're going to work with trying to get the assistant coaches on as well.
Yeah,
we Coach Calhoun has been great to visit with us and for the fan base to get to know him. But he's got a whole staff that they're fun too, and we want to get to know them and let the audience have a little bit of an insight as to what their roles are and how what role they play in this basketball team. Yeah, and as well, and to keep touch with us, we're going to be live streaming on Eric's Twitter account. Yes, in about 5 or so minutes as the NBA lottery is about to get going. Yeah, so the NBA draft lottery will take place at 5, and then Celtics Knicks will tip off around 5:30 on ESPN tonight. That'll do it for us here on the Full Court Press. Thanks for tuning in, and if you missed any part of it, it'll be available on our podcast feed on our website, 1069thefan.com, or on our mobile app.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. Growth in the NBA doesn't always come in the form of blowouts or highlight reel moments. Sometimes it looks like grit, composure, winning a game you might have lost a year ago. That's what we saw from Oklahoma City in Game 4. The youngest team in the league went toe-to-toe with the former champ and 3-time MVP in Nikola Jokic. They didn't blink. The same Thunder team that got bounced in the second round last postseason by a veteran Mavericks team now finds itself looking much more seasoned, much more confident, far more dangerous. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander didn't have his flashiest night, but 9 of his 25 points came in the fourth quarter, right when his team needed those the most. And just as important, OKC hit timely shots, made smart decisions, and matched Denver's physicality. It wasn't a statement win because of the margin. It was a statement win because of the maturity. The Thunder might be young. They're no longer inexperienced. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise.